welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have 38 Special. I had a chance to talk to Don Barnes, the lead singer of 38 Special, about, of course, hit songs like Hold On Loosely, what it's like to last as a band for 50 years, their new album Milestone, and what it went into creating this new album a handful of years after their last album. So much more. We'll get into that in just a moment. If you haven't yet, check out the Bottle Rock episode from last week. I got a chance to cover Bottle Rock Napa Valley for one of the 3 days this year. I only decided to do one, but got a good amount of content from that. We should be having more content coming from Bottle Rock in the coming weeks, so we'll be sprinkling that in, hopefully an interview with The Alive and with Chevy Metal, who I had the chance to see 2 times in the same day. Both of those, well, Chevy Metal only one time, but The Alive I got to see twice, and Shane Hawkins from The Alive drummed with them in their opening performance of Bottle Rock. So it was a day full of music, so many bands. You can check out all the live performances I was able to check out in the last week's episode of Concert Pipeline. So that is coming here. Also excited about a family vacation I have coming up to Florida in just over a week now. It's going to be great. We're going to hit Orlando. We're going to hit some other beaches in the Florida vicinity and just relax, get to visit family, so much more. That's going to be a blast. I take my kids on usually one vacation a year, and this is where we decided to go this year. Don't get to visit my family very often, so it'll be good for them to get to see each other, and we got a planned pool hangout with the barbecue. It's going to be good times. So that's what I got going on there. All right, again, Don Barnes from 38 Special. You know them from Hold On Loosely. Great hit from back in the day. And a bunch of other hits as well, but that's the one that paid the bills and really launched them into fame, where they're able to play songs 50 years later and continue to do what they're doing. So let's go ahead and let's bring in Don Barnes.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. Sorry about the issue with the Zoom link, and glad we got it working.
Expletives did fly.
Did they?
Yes. Technology,
It's one of the greats. It's when it works for you, it's wonderful. When it works against you, it's like, okay, let's get past it.
I know, that's the truth. Yeah. Where are you?
I'm out in California on the West Coast outside of Sacramento.
Oh, are you? Yeah, great.
Yeah. How about you?
I'm in Atlanta. I just got back. We just did slew of whole shows from Ohio through Indiana. The infrastructure, you don't get any sleep on these buses, it's like the potholes, and you wonder where all your tax money went all those years. I don't think it's going to those roads.
Not fixing the roads for sure.
That's right.
Yeah. How were the shows?
Great, sold out. I mean, everybody loves to go out there and relive their youth, and we've got all the new music from the Milestone album, so we present that as well, and so it goes over very well. Everybody's loving it, but it's great to have that kind of catalog, because we got about 16 top 40, top 20, top 10 songs, so we bang them up against each other, one right into the next, because we can't play them all full length. I do about 3 different little mini medleys, because you have 2.5 minutes or so of a song, and then it goes into another radio song. So, if we were there trying to play it full length, we'd be there 4 hours,
Yeah,
which is a good problem to have,
That's not a bad problem at all.
That's right. Yeah.
What do people latch on to most? I mean, what do they get the most joy out of in your life?
Do I get the most joy?
You and the audience. What are your observations?
You know what? We see the instant reaction from people. We're right up close to them. We're up on the stage. We see they're singing along, high five each other. My sound man says, sometimes I have to turn you up louder because the crowd is singing louder than you are, but we'll see some tears in their eyes. It's just, it's a pretty moving experience. They come for that, to take that ride. We give them that ride. That's what a lot of bands don't do, is they don't, they play one song and they thank you very much. And here's our next song is this. We take it's like a roller coaster ride. We take them all the way an hour and a half, So, but
Yeah.
yeah, you'll see little young guys out there. They got a little band. They wait for their favorite song. It's like Hold On Loosely or something. It's like, dude, you weren't even born when that song came out. They're high
No.
fiving each other. But yeah, sometimes you see songs that remind people of somebody they've lost. We're all kind of the age now where, some illness has taken over and some spouses are not there anymore. And man, you'll see tears streaming down. And I'm
Oh,
telling you,
you
it's
make
an
them cry?
emotional experience for me. I mean, it gets me a little choked up, trying to sing it. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you latch onto your own experiences when you're playing the songs
I
live, or
do.
do you?
Every one of those songs is a milestone, if you will, of our life. All of our
Yeah.
lives. We saw the charting positions. We remember, this one made it number 19 and it started slipping away, so it's the next single. So yeah, all of those, you remember the marriage you were in or where you lived and all those things, they mark that because you remember recording it in the studio and when it was released. And I get Donnie Van Zant, still my partner. He's I've known him since he was 14. So,
Wow.
but he'll text me and say, can you believe that Wild Eyed Southern Boys came out 44 years ago? We're like, wait a minute. I don't
You
want to
can't say
hear that. I don't want to
that.
hear that. Yeah.
Let's not talk about numbers, okay?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's great that the music lives on, Like a lot of bands, they survive, but very few bands remain relevant, like touring hard and still releasing music 50 years later. I know we don't want to talk about the number, but it's there. So is there a secret? What's the secret to feeling inspired at this stage in the game for you?
It's the greatest job in the world, really, to bring that kind of joy to people. And we were all young boys with a dream. We made all our mistakes in public. It didn't happen overnight. We struggled through 3 albums right over the cliff. We thought we were going to lose the record deal and made some changes, changed the formula up a little bit, and came kind of stripped everything down. First of all, way back then, Southern rock was really on the waning at the time. We were on the backside of that whole movement in the late 70s and all. So we knew you got to change some things. And we were big fans of Bad Company and Boston, all these arena rock bands, Foreigner and all that. So we liked all that stuff. So we set about changing the formula and making something work. We had gone through the tragedy of the Skynyrd plane crash, and somewhere in a boardroom somewhere at A&M Records, we'd already done 2 albums that failed miserably. And somebody in the boardroom just didn't have the heart to drop us after Donnie had lost his brother and everything. So they gave us one more chance, and we rose to the occasion, met the moment, and tried a bunch of different things. And Donnie even suggested, why don't you sing a few songs? Let's do anything different, that we wasn't working for us. So
Yeah.
it started catching on. So "Rock Into the Night" was the first single. It kind of broke into radio and got some airplay. And so the whole thing it's about getting on the radio back then. You get your foot in the door because everybody is clamoring for the same slot. 24 hours
Yeah.
a day, and most of that is commercials. So you're trying to get 16 hours a day of airplay. And so anyway, you get your foot in the door, and then you got to kick that door open, and the next follow it up with something else. And that was what Rockin' Into the Night led into Hold On Loosely, which really did slam the door open.
Oh
Kick
yeah.
that.
Talk about kick it open, for sure. So you mentioned the Leonard legacy. Like, did that inspire you to creatively, jump into your own and like carve out your own identity?
Yeah, we were from Jacksonville, Florida. It was a Navy town. All those groups, Allman Brothers, everybody, we all played sailors clubs at a young age. 16 years old, make $100 a week. Playing little cover songs and all that. Dwayne Allman, Greg Allman, Ronnie Van Zant, all the Hatchet guys, everybody. The Outlaws were right down the road, and Tom Petty was in Gainesville. So we all played these sailors clubs. We were underage, watching them young sailors drink and fight. And we're playing Young Rascal songs and Three Dog Night and just all those songs. And you learn everything. We didn't realize we were kind of absorbing the craft of songwriting. We were practicing somebody's living room, learning the new songs that came out on the radio, Lovin' Spoonful, all those back then. But you start seeing the payoff and songs. You start seeing the craft of it, how it builds the pre-chorus, everything. The big cherry on top is the big that lifts the whole song up. The chorus does, and nice bridge and outro, all those things. So you do it over and over, and you start seeing, oh, that's how it's done. Now we just have to make up something from nothing, and make songs up. And I've said before, you get a little, cocky back there in a young age and think, well, I can write my own songs now. And that's when you go starve for the next 10 years. So every one of us did that, But
Yeah.
so we were kind of in the, Lynyrd Skynyrd was taken off. The first album was out in 73, I think. And it's just being from Jacksonville, Florida, you're not from the hip cities, New York, LA, anything like that. So you're kind of the underdog spirit. We all had that same thing where, you got to prove yourself. You got to crank those guitars up, get right in their face, and make your point, and get really good at songwriting and just all that. You had a lot more to prove, and so we saw when somebody's showing you. Allman Brothers started breaking first. Well, first of all, Ray Charles is from there. Other people, artists from Jacksonville, Florida. But you start seeing that it can be done. Most of the time,
Yeah.
you have a disbelief that you could get anywhere out of that west side of Jacksonville. And when somebody cracks the door a little bit, you say, "Oh, well, I'd like to try to do that too." If Lynyrd Skynyrd kind of showed us that it can be done if you got the fortitude, conviction to stay there and rehearse every day, get the right people to show up for rehearsal, and sacrifice everything. That's the thing these young boys don't realize, that you got to be 5 steps ahead of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like you're out there to drink a few beers with your buddies and hang out and meet girls or whatever. You got to be an artist. You got to have a career. If you want a record contract, you got to be 5 steps. You got to have your songs written. You got to be always have your antenna out for new ideas, all that stuff. Like anything, any artistic approach, you don't just lay back and slack off doing it. You got to really nose to the grindstone kind of thing. But I've said before that most people think when you get a record deal, well, you've made it. You don't get, that's just the beginning. They give you a chance to play in the big leagues. And if you can't deliver, I mean, they're selling product. These companies they want product. If you can't sell that product, they're going to kick you right back down to the dirty clubs and the farm league, So they just give you a chance. So, we had that chance, a record deal with the first 2 albums, and not do anything. And we thought, we're headed back to oblivion. So anyway, so like I said, we changed all the formula, did everything we could, and again, it was after the tragedy, the Skynyrd tragedy. So that steeled our fortitude and conviction to do it for Ronnie. He was a big mentor for the band. And you mentioned, did we feel like we were kind of in the shadow or something? He came to us and said, "Stop trying to be a clone of everything that's happened before you." So he said, you got history and you like music all your life. Find what lights your heart up. What do you like? We realized we were more less blues oriented, like these Southern groups. We like the British invasion stuff. We like the melody and muscle, and Beatles and the Searchers and all these, great the British bands. So we started crafting something. Just be free and be anything. We did strip down all the guitars to 8 notes, tick, 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 tick. We put a little melody over the top, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And were your parents influential in you
My
getting you
dad was a
started?
my dad was a music director in church. He played piano, and he also played. He had all these array of harmonicas, these chromatic harmonicas, big ones with the buttons and everything. And he was in the Navy. He used to entertain all the sailors on the ships there in the World War II. I still have a picture of him in my guitar vault every night. He's sitting doing just what he loved, playing that harp.
Oh
And
yeah.
I look at him every night before I walk out there. So that was the first rumblings of chord structures with gospel songs, church songs. And you start seeing the cycle of fifths and those kind of things. You don't really know what that means at the time, but you felt like it was kind of moving. It moved you a little bit, we would tinker around with piano and stuff. I did take some piano lessons and hated them just like everybody else, but later on you realize is you can transpose to a guitar. You're like, oh, here's the C, here's the G. Oh, here on the guitar, and it starts making sense. The keyboard, So a lot of the
Gives you
songs
that
we wrote
foundation.
over the years, I wrote started the inception of them was on piano. People don't realize something like some boogie song like Rough House, and people think that was big. It was actually piano, ban it, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And you talk about like kicking down the doors and needing to get on the radio and kind of that being the measure for success. Back then, how has success and look different for you over the decades?
Yeah, but you realize you're in the game now, and everybody, no one wishes you any goodwill, because they want your place on the charts, So you have to really fight the whole way. You have to back up the last song. They say you're only as good as your last hit song, so you got to really like top the last one, keep going at it. I've said before that if I could talk to my younger self, I would have had a better time doing it. But I was always, again, 5 steps ahead of yourself. You go out there. We did tours across the country 3 months at a time, sold out arenas everywhere. The Marquee tonight, 38 Special sold out. It's like, well, that's good, but we're way down the line from that. We're selling that album, doing the shows, but we had 6 months contractual obligation to have the next one out, and we didn't have an idea of any note at all going on it. So you're always constantly that far ahead of yourself. It's kind of like movies. When you go see a movie, everything just unrolls, and all the editing and all the music is up. Well, they spent 2 or 3 years on that, and by the time you talk to the stars that promote it, they're already on two movies in front of that. So it's like
Yeah, and then
that.
it's gone out of the theater in two
Right.
weeks, and you're like,
That's
oh
right.
man, they spent so long,
That's right.
like just to,
So I would say I wish I had a better time, but at the same time, it was needed to be that focused and put yourself forward.
yeah. Did you ever have a chance to like slow down and appreciate what you had and like where,
Well,
like
I
what
did.
came?
I left the band. I've been
Yeah.
so burned out from that treadmill, of trying to put albums out. Back to what I was saying about 6 month obligation. We didn't have a single note of anything, and I was dating this girl, and I just out of the clear blue, I said, I just can't seem to get any work done. I'm just so caught up in you all the time. And it was just like a little light bulb went on. It's like, that's a pretty good song title. That's kind of positive. So those things are the inception of those things come along. And Hold On Loosely was we co-wrote that with Jim Peterick and Jeff Carlisi from the original guitarist from the band. And the first day we met him, he was from the band Ides of March from back in the '60s. I'm Your Vehicle, that big hit. He had a #1 hit at 17 years old. This guy, I was like, dude, I was putting bulk oil in an old Ford Fairlane at 17 years old. This guy's got a #1 song. Anyway, so we met him the first day. He said, so how you guys been doing? And I said, I was going through a bad relationship that was kind of going south. And I said, what is it about people? First of all, songwriters have little books of lines and titles. You have to have that kind of thing open when you're throwing some chords around. You look down at a notebook and you see something that might sing well for that period and a melody, So I had the notebooks open and I said, what is it about people just can't seem to tolerate their differences? They try to keep them under your thumb, let you grow, and they want to, want you were trying to be somebody, So anyway, I said, I looked down at my notebook. I said, what do you think about this title, Hold On Loosely? And he said, oh yeah, but don't let go. And that was the first thing he said. That's a perfect couplet. It was like a great bookend, and we were off to the races. Great little story, short story that said a lot in very few words. So all those things. You build on all that. Songwriting is a real chore. I've said before. I told my wife is that I'd read something about uh, uh, Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway. And the interviewer asked him, he said, so do you love to write? He goes, no, actually, I hate to write, but I love having written.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
truth, because it's a tedium to get it all write it to the wall, as they say, to get it finished. And then once it's done, oh, you love it. But it's the work process is tough,
Oh
to get it
yeah,
all the way
it's like
done.
exercise too. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't want no one wants to hop on a bike or go out for but then once you
Yeah.
finish it, you feel a sense of accomplishment.
Well,
It's
I've
like
said you write about 500 songs, you might publish 50, because
yeah,
it's you're going through the exercise from A to Z every time. You're going through everything the knowledge you have, and the building and the tracking and the graph. The graph has to keep, for a listener, the graph goes up and it keeps going up. There's a big payoff, and you keep that interest of the listener, and so you try to keep that going. And so yeah, it's something that you have to really work hard at and learn to do. It's great to play cover songs. All these guys are out there. I tell these young guys, man, just play with your buddies on the weekend, have fun, have doing it. But man, when you try to eat from it and pay your bills, man, it is tough, especially nowadays.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
People like the covers. It's hard to get an appreciation for the original, but
Oh,
you put the work
yeah.
in, and
And it's all
you
the
can.
streaming and all, brick and mortar record companies are gone, basically.
Yeah,
Radio is not king anymore. It's all streaming, and I'm still being educated on how many clicks how many views on a song. We're doing really well though. My manager said, "Yeah, streaming has a long tail." Said you have to wait, so you watch it, and and it's picking up, goes viral. You're watching the numbers, but it takes a long time. I just heard her recently. A young girl, I can't think of her name, but she had a number one song. Her album came out a year and a half ago, and it just now got to the point where people were telling other people. It's all word of mouth. Streaming
yeah.
is word of mouth. People say, "Oh man, you got to hear this song." Yeah, they send a link or whatever. So you're waiting on all that.
You got to get enough ears from from all the channels, right? Like from playing live, from
That's
if
right.
you
That's
if
right.
you get on
That's why.
radio, great, but
Yeah.
that's just one little
And
piece.
radio, again, like I said, is not king anymore. Radio
No,
was, you would watch your program ads every week and your chart positions and all that. Radio, they check the Spotify top 50, and they see numbers. It's like, oh, this song must be doing something. We'll look at it and put it on our program list. But that takes a long time to get to Spotify top 50. So the song "All I Haven't Said" was the first single they released. Was It's done great. I mean, it's so 500,000 YouTube views, but about 3 million on Spotify. Well, you got to have 10 or 20 million. 3 million
yeah,
is nothing there.
the
So
drop in the bucket at this point.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So new album is Milestone, and the album sounds like reflective without sounding defeated. Was that intentional, or?
Yeah, oh yeah. We tried to make an updated version of 38 Special style and sound of it all these years later, because again, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, Steve. If you come out with something that sounds like 1984, well, people will just shrug their shoulders and go, "Well, it's nothing new. It sounds like just everything they did before." Conversely, you come out with something that's a little edgy and you took some risk. Well, those same people are scratching their head, going, "Huh? This is 38 Special?" So you have to just dismiss all that mentally and that was a conscious effort to make an updated modern sound 38 Special. So all those songs came out really well. We're really proud of it. And we couldn't think of a better title to call it. A Milestone. 50 years, 50-year
Absolutely,
anniversary. Yeah. We have a whole new stage set. We still do 100 cities a year. Been doing 100 cities a year every year,
that's
all
so
these
impressive.
all this time. Yeah, I'm telling you, people come out, they want to sing those songs that started their relationship, their first kiss or whatever. All those songs mean something. Some woman said one time, she said, "Our baby was conceived to caught up in you." I was like, "Oh, really? Where exactly were you? Yeah,
Something
at
was caught up.
a live show or in the back seat? Where?"
Right, I know. In the crowd, like how many babies have been conceived at your
I
shows? Like
know it is funny. Yeah.
that's awesome. And so what did you want that to sound like? What was the right mixture for you of touching on that classic piece of 38 Special, but also kind of hitting the new when you went into the creating this?
Well, there's growth through all those years, so you want to show the growth at the same time. Now, there's several songs on there that do sound a little 80s ish, because you can't help it. You can't get away from their original style. But did want to show the growth and the artistic risk to take, through all those years. We did learn. I co-wrote a song with Randy Bachman. Did some outside stuff. I had Pat Monahan from Train come in,
Yes.
sang a duet with me. Great guy, came in and killed it. But he and Joe Bonamassa had done a version of Hold On Loosely for YouTube. Just, they had a million hits on it or something. So while I was doing the Milestone album, all of us were in the studio. I said, that's a pretty good version they did. I'm going to reach out to his manager. I didn't know him. I said, I'm going to reach out to his manager, see if he'd like to sing a duet on a song. His manager came back, said he absolutely would love to do it. He'd been a fan all of his life. And so we made a new friend, talked to him, and, we went through this song called Slightly Controversial. And it's a real banger. It's got some machine gun guitars in it and everything, quite different from some of the 80s stuff. And anyway, so I told him he did a great job, just came in and crushed it, And I said, man, between the two of us, we could probably scare up a pretty good song if you want to do some writing. And he said, I absolutely would do that. So we've got that look forward to, a nice relationship,
More with Pat. I like it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe some shows also down the road. Huh?
Yeah, we'd love to do that. Yeah, we'll do some things together.
Yeah, and so did the long gap between albums, did that remove pressure and allow you to just make music naturally?
Yeah, you get a little disenchanted with the record business. Our live business was through the roof. We like I said, 100 cities a year. That's about all that we can do. It takes another 100 to get there. It's 200 days right there. So, the live business was great. Everybody still loves to relive all those times in the 80s and just everything. And so you get a little disenchanted with the streaming and the record business in general. We did put out a couple of things, put a Christmas album out. It came out really great. Did a record called Drivetrain, and that was more. They said the doors are all closed for classic rock, but rock radio, the doors would be open for to make a big, ugly, noisy rock record. So we did, and it had a little minimal success. But you get to the point where we did a live album and that kind of thing. But you get to the point where it's like, first of all, Steve, you carve so much time out of your life to make an album. So we were just running up and down the roads, doing all these shows and getting the cities in and going home for Christmas and Thanksgiving, just having a life for a while, So, because it takes so much of your time, and the older you get, well, time gets more valuable. So, we were just kind of looking at it in that perspective. And then the 50th anniversary was coming up, and it's like, my agent said, "What are you going to do for your 50th?" I said, "Well, I thought I would cash in and get a really beautiful, nice new stage set with moving lights and towers, and it looks gorgeous up there." And he said, you got to have some new music at 50th anniversary. You can't just, slip out there. And I said, okay, I guess it is time. So we did it in about 8 phases. While we were doing the cities, we would jump back in the studio and cut 4 basic tracks and then jump back out and do 10 cities and come back and forth. So it was kind of like left brain, right brain kind of thing, trying to keep it together. And then I was flying to Chicago with Jim Peterick, his house. He's got 2 studios in his house. And we put all that together. Jim and I co-wrote. We've been longtime songwriting friends, And and I had Johnny Kay produce it in mix it in Nashville. And Rodney Mills, our old producer, he mastered it. I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. We got a Georgia Music Hall of Fame award about 12 years ago. And I'd seen him then, and he said to me, he said, "Can you believe all those little songs we cobbled together that long ago are still played on the radio every day across the country?" I mean, it's a pretty surreal thing when you think about that, Anyway, I called him. I hadn't talked to him in 10 years or so. And I said, "Rodney, I just have one question. Would you like to master the new 38 special album?" That's what he's doing now, mastering, So he's gotten out of the production part. And he said, "Don, I'd be honored to do that after all this
He's
time."
been waiting for your call.
Yeah. So we reconnected, and he's always been a great guy, longtime friends, so came out really well. Great pictures, all the videos we had, everybody pitched in and did a good job.
Yeah. Now, all I haven't said on the album, that song feels emotionally vulnerable in a way that people don't necessarily immediately kind of associate with arena rock. Like, where did
Yeah.
that song come from?
Well, it's a little bit more of the growth through the 90s and singer-songwriter, a sensitive kind of thing. At the same time, we didn't want to lose the rock element, the edgy guitars and everything. So it was just it's a good story. It's a good study in relationship, but you notice that most of our songs are all relationship oriented. That's
Oh yeah.
a good palette to paint on with, it's and so you look at that song was more about not a new relationship, an older one, where things may have gotten a little complacent, and the husband doesn't really know how to express himself too much. He's out in the shop all the time, doesn't say much, and the wife doesn't feel like she's being heard after all these years together, and she starts to, feel she wants to step away, and he's saying, I just didn't know how to express myself. I still have all that love, an ocean of love, but I might not have expressed how much you mean to me, basically. So if you see the chorus, you know, if I quoted all the poets across the ages, I'd still not find the words caught inside my head. I would write them across the sky how much I loved you and all I haven't said. So he's trying to make it right, trying to heal it all, and so like I said, that's a different perspective. Hold On Loosely was about the relationship thing, giving each other room to breathe and be themselves, grow together. Caught Up in You was just brand new love. All those things. If I'd Been the One was the one about a woman I'd been dating in Texas, long distance romance, and she ended up. Of course, you never want to get mixed up with a traveling musician, But we were, pretty head over heels with each other, and she called me and said she wanted my blessing that she was going to get married. And so it was heartbreaking. I said, put yourself in my place. It was all a perspective songwriting,
Oh yeah.
change that point of view. What would you have felt like if I said this to you? That kind of thing. So what if I'd been the one to say goodbye? That was what that was about. So all those have real truth, real meaning. The thing about songwriting, if you put some element of truth in there, it can't be denied, because somewhere somebody has felt that same feeling. If you can say, "Ooh, baby, I miss you, I need you, I love you," or you can do that all day long, But if you put some real truth of life experiences, then people go, "Wow, I know just what he's talking about. I felt that same way," So the element
Yeah.
of truth is the thing, the
And you
essence.
write from your own experiences, but is that in the back of your mind as you're writing at the same time as well? Like, how is this going to resonate? Is this going to connect with other people also?
It's a lot of different elements. You have to rhyme. It has to sing well in the song, and you're constantly editing the words, because it's kind of like John Bettis, who was a great songwriter. He wrote with Beach Boys, and we wrote Like No Other Night together. But he said it's like you got to read a lot of short stories. He said you can see how they get to the point. It's not flowery. They don't put any extra things. Get to the point. Get to the finale of the story. So that's what songwriting is. It's like a short story. So you're putting it all together. You got a second verse. And it's like, okay, I've said everything in the first verse. So how do I? And sometimes you say, there was a time back when I felt this way. Second verse, take them back in time. You said it all first, but let me take you back in time. So it's all those kind of things. It's little tricks of the trade kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of kind of tricks of the trade, your voice has really held up a lot over the decades of touring.
Yeah,
Like that can put some wear on voices, and I know a lot
it
of
can.
artists who have been around for a long time who don't have that still, right? Like, have you had to
There's a
reinvent your voice at all, or what is that?
I I sang in, the chorus and the choir, high school and junior high school. So I did learn correctly. Like Greg Allman said, you got to sing like somebody's punching you in the stomach. You got to keep it down the diaphragm. You don't push too much air out of the pipe. And I've been constant maintenance all these years to take care of that little pipe with two strands in there. So you have to sing from the gut, and keep your and there's a lot of singers that sing directly from their face, and that's what ruins your voice, because you're pushing too much air out of that pipe, and you can't hold up 40, 50 years. You have to sing correctly, and you sing correctly. You see these opera singers up in years, and they're still belting it out because they're singing correctly. So So I learned that from an early age, from the chorus and the easy credit, Steve, you know.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Uh, is there a song in your set list that gives you an adrenaline rush each night, or is it the show as a whole, like being able to play and see the reaction on
You mean
the fans?
favorite songs of mine?
Yeah,
They all, you know, it's like the children. You put them, turn them out in the world. You hope people accept them. But you know, there's some Chain Lightning's always been a great song enjoyed for me because it's epic and it has all the thunder rolling and it's got the Bad Company element and everything. Big fans of all the big guitars. So that's a favorite of mine. But yeah, I mean, I know when I walk out through that smoke after Chain Lightning, they got all the smoke and lightning and all that. And I bust through the smoke with Hold On Loosely, and it's all over, buddy. That whole
yeah,
place,
yeah.
they've been waiting for it all night. It's the cherry on top, you know. So, but all those songs, yeah, they do have special meaning to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you look back, is there a favorite, memory that you have from a show that just like really click, where you really clicked, and you're like, this is one for the books? Like,
Oh, there's
what are
so
some of
many of those. I've gone backstage and said, tonight we were the best band in the world. You know, we rocked that place, that arena, you know, so many of those. But there was one, you know, the Meadowlands Arena back when we were trying to build our career. You know, we started as kind of like the tortoise and the hare. You know, we were the ones going slow build. Started from the clubs into the theaters. Didn't hurry too long. You wanted to build a fan base in the theater area, and then start selling a little more tickets in 2 nights in those theaters, and you start putting it in the arenas. So it was a good conscientious build to make it happen. Some of these people go right away, going right into the arenas. They might exist briefly, but you can't sell those kind of tickets unless you have the fan base through the years. So anyway, we were at a stage in our life that we had done all the Northeast up there. We'd played all these places again and again and open shows and did all that. And we felt like we were going to go into the Meadowlands. We felt like that, we could sell it out. And we have handlers. Every band has managers and accountants and that kind of. And they said, you don't really want to go into that's 24,000 people. You don't want to go in there and embarrass yourself and sell half the house or whatever. And we said, well, we were stubborn. We said, no, I think we said, we built this fan base. I think they'll come out, you know? And they said, well, go ahead. It's your funeral, you know, you're going. So, and buddy, I'll tell you, we went in there and sold it all the way around. 24,000 people came out, and it was a big triumph. To answer your question, that was one that was memorable to us, that it was a big victory. You know, we've always gone out to played shows kind of like a football team. We learned that from Lynyrd Skynyrd, from Ronnie Van Zant. He would go out there, and God help whoever had to follow him, they were going to win the night. So we always went out after that to be triumphant, you know, and we went out to dig in and make it happen for ourselves. You know, when you first start out with the group, and I know every band out there feels this, you don't want to show your desperation, you know, but you really are in your head saying, please like us. We don't have anything to fall back on. We have rolled the dice with nothing to fall back on. We can't go back to day jobs. Well, please accept us, you know. So that in the early days, it's like that. The desperation, you're hiding it. You're hiding that desperation and saying, "Hey, we'll rock you. We'll rock you." But really, in reality, you're really hoping that you go over well, you know. And we used to get you remember Peter Frampton? He was the biggest star in the world back in '77 or '78 or whatever. We were his opening act. Nobody had ever heard of us, you know. And we've watched him, you know, sell out arenas and everything. I remember that song about lines on my face. I remember sitting on a flight case watching him do that, and thinking about how many decades later am I going to be hearing that song, lines on my face, you know, that thing. But it would be like, you know, a write up of that's 15 paragraphs of Peter Frampton, and the very end, about 2 sentences. And 38 Special did a rousing set, something like that. And we thought, well, maybe that means something. Maybe that, no, it never did. you know,
no?
you really got to put it out there, you know. So it's a tough. I don't recommend this for anybody. I don't mean to be discouraging, but it's not something I recommend, because if you got any little something more to stability to fall back on, if you're good with your hands or your education or whatever, because there are no guarantees. My brother just told me recently about how I've stuck it out all this time. I said, man, we've seen so many bands that we looked up to that we were on the wings watching them, and may have a radio hit or a couple of radio hits, and they were excellent players, more talented than us, all that. We'd look great singers, and it just didn't happen. They eventually were relegated back to the clubs, and then they broke up. So to be
Yeah.
able to answer your question, longevity is the key to the whole thing, is to keep pushing forward and keep being triumphant every night.
And did you get that advice from anybody? Was there any advice from like a musician that kind of you held on to that helped you kind of say, okay, this is the right path. I'm going about this right way, or did
Well,
it
we
just click?
did. We did have the luxury of being associated with Lynyrd Skynyrd. Ronnie,
Of
especially.
course.
Ronnie was the guy that he was a fighter. He was famous in Jacksonville being the tough guy. He was a fighter, and he said, "You just don't take a back seat to anybody. Nobody. You be tougher than the toughest. Always pushing forward and everything." So that was, to answer your question, that was a big influence on us. And Donnie, of course, grew up with him. Uh, I told Donnie, I think I was more influenced by Ronnie than him, because he was so close to him. But I watched from a distance. I watched that guy turn. He came from the wrong side of the tracks and made the whole world listen to him. And he was just, they didn't have anything. They came from nothing. Those guys they paid some dues. They slept on the back of amps in the back of a van, and just
Wow.
broke for years, till they got their big break. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing. You just keep that attitude about being a fighter and being triumphant every night. And people know when they come to a 38 special show, you're never going to get 80%. It's 110% every time. And we're lucky, very fortunate all these years to have those hit songs, because that's the artillery. People say, I tell people it's like nuggets of gold in your pocket. You can always eat. If somebody says, well, what can you do? Well, I got these nuggets of gold in my pocket. I can do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's exactly. You can cash it in
Right.
anywhere, right? It's good
Right. Yeah.
currency.
Right.
Just pull it out. Just pull it out.
Yeah.
Um, well, Don, as we wrap, do you have a favorite concert that you've been to as a fan? I know obviously you play 100 shows a year yourself, but what's one that stuck with you as a fan of music?
Oh, as a fan of music, I like Ronnie Earl and the Broadcasters. I like these up tempo blues bands. It's a lot of joy in that. A lot of people say, it's kind of my escape. I'm not really listening to radio hits or anything like that. It's my escape. That I like good guitar playing and just great stuff. But people think it's blues. Isn't that kind of sad? No, there's a lot of joy in all that stuff. Just grooving and all that. We have a stereo backstage. We blast all that stuff back before the show starts. We got tired of sitting and looking at each other like a funeral home. It's too quiet back there.
Yeah, yeah,
But I got to tell you, there was one little bit that I found this little clipping way back there in the 70s, and it was, no, this is back playing the dirty clubs. We went from South Carolina to Kansas, and the routing, we had a broken down agent who would book us somewhere, clubs. And I woke up in the back of a van with dirty mattress. You got grit on your neck, and you look out there, and you're in the middle of a cornfield in Kansas, and you start questioning your choices in life. What am I
yeah,
doing? Is this going to ever work out? And I'd found a little clipping, and it was just a little 3x3. I cut it out, and it was about persistence, and it was called Persistence. I think it was written by Calvin Coolidge or somebody like that. But it said, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. The world is full of unsuccessful men with talent. And it said, education will not. Educated derelicts are everywhere. It just went on about that. It said, persistence and determination alone are omnipotent, meaning you don't have to be the most talented guy, but if you never give up the game, you can stay in there and maybe win something. You shoot for the stars, maybe hit the moon.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's very true. Exactly, because you can have the talent, but but if you're not pushing, if you're not driven, you're not gonna get it
Yes.
out there.
You got to be the whole
Absolutely.
package. You got to be able to get along, first of all, with a group. It's a family. It's a
Mhm.
support group. It's basically your new family. A band is a new family. You're always lifting the other person up, being diplomatic, being, just like I said, just support each other. Sometimes there were guys who were like, man, I just can't seem, I'm not making any money. I got to get a job. They're like, oh man, we got this far at least. We'll just let's hold it out for a little bit longer. Maybe we can, make something happen. So it took a long time. But like I said, I don't recommend it for anybody. But
No, no, but
these
you're a
young guys,
persistent guy, so you
yeah,
have it.
these
So
young guys, it's like I tell them, if you absolutely have to do it, but if there's anything else, don't do that.
it's
You
not a
can
choice,
really
it's a
fall on your
commitment.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Donna, thank you for taking the time. I mean,
Thank you,
this
Steve.
has been awesome, and yeah, the new album is incredible, and yeah, and I hope to catch you out here. I know you're playing Thunder Valley at the end of October.
Yeah, come,
It's my son's
come.
13th birthday though, so I got to see if I can.
Oh, really?
I have
On
to
his birthday?
yeah, I have to see if I can bring him.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to be his decision, you know. So
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna
He's
start playing your
13.
music now, and
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it might be an age restriction. I don't know. Is that an outdoor
oh
show?
yeah, oh Thunder, it's a casino. You're right. I got it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
that
you
might be a
check
tough
with
one.
them. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't, come
But
see us anytime. Come be my guest. Love to have you, Steve.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Come back soon,
All right, buddy. Take care now.
absolutely.
Good
You
luck
have a
to you.
great one, Don. Okay.
You too.
That was my interview with 38 Special here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. I have a couple stories to wind out the program today. The movie Michael, about Michael Jackson, there is a sequel that is confirmed. Studio bosses suggest it might not follow chronologically from the first film, but they are moving forward with that. The story of the life of Michael Jackson, played by Jafar Jackson, broke records upon its release and has so far earned $715 million worldwide at the box office. The film ended with the caption, "His story continues," implying a sequel may be on the way. And Lionsgate Motion Picture Chair Adam Fogelson has shed some light on the development. He says, "We are really excited about the progress we're making with respect to a second Michael film. All the conversations that we've been having with all of the appropriate parties continue to go exceptionally well." Um, and and so if you haven't got a chance to see that movie yet, I really recommend it. I mean, there's obviously conflictions with Michael Jackson as a person in his personal life outside of the music. It's separating the art from the artist a little bit. And but watching this film, it really celebrates him as an icon, as a legend. It really elevates him to super status fame, which he was. He was the greatest back in the day. And then some other stuff happened, and I'm guessing the second movie isn't going to go that far into the later stuff that the downfall, I guess, as you would say, but. Especially if they have the same actor who is a Jackson himself, continue to play Michael Jackson. But I'll check out the movie. I took my son to see the first one, and we both loved it very much. So check that out. Rivers Cuomo has leaked covers of Whitney Houston, Dolly Parton, Michael Jackson, and more from his archives. He uploaded a series of lo-fi acoustic covers to YouTube under the playlist titled "Random Covers," with random spelled with a U-M, and covers CUVERZ on May 25th. Though some fans are speculating it might have been an accident. They include "Billie Jean" by Michael Jackson, Sam Hunt's "Body Like a Back Road," Post Malone and Quavo's "Congratulations," Radiohead's "Creep," and Nirvana's "Drain You" and "Lithium." He's also shared versions of Metallica's "Enter Sandman," Outkast's "Hey Ya," Eagles' "Hotel California," Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me," Dolly Parton's "Jolene," Guns N' Roses' "Sweet Child of Mine," Green Day's "When I Come Around," and Harry Nelson's "Without You." Okay. I don't know. Weezer is this whole entity thing. I don't know what to do with it all, but I love it. I've seen them a handful of times, including at Bottle Rock a handful of years ago. And they're just great. And they've done a covers album in the past, so I don't know. Are they this mix between this '90s nostalgia band, or are they a cover band, or are they a super hits band? They have wear so many hats, and all of them are pretty great. Weezer is one of those bands that it's hard not to like. But there's some Weezer covers out there if you want to check them out. Okay, and speaking of bottle rock, a couple of stories from bottle rock artists that played bottle rock this year. Paris Jackson, who I also saw twice on Saturday, doesn't want her love for her father to seem performative. I had a personal relationship, not a parasocial relationship. She told Jack Osbourne that she was in a very bad spot with her late father, adding, "I love that, and it's no one's business." She is the second child of the late King of Pop and his second wife, Debbie Rowe. Harris was just 11 years old when Michael died from a cardiac arrest in 2009 at age 50. She's opened up about grief, music, and growing up in the spotlight on the latest episode of Jack Osbourne's Trying Not to Die podcast. I got to check that out because I don't know anything about her music, but I saw her twice and I'm interested in her story. So um, they discussed the impact of losing their fathers, as they both have that in common now. And Ozzy Osbourne said, "There's definitely Jack Osbourne said, there's definitely a certain element where I felt I had to share everything, and I feel like I owed it to people." Oh no, this was not Jack Osbourne. This was Paris, where I felt I had to share everything, and I felt like I owed it to people because I do believe that is the impression I was given of like, you owe this to us. So if you want to hear more, check out Jack Osbourne's podcast. All right, I'm going to close it out with the Foo Fighters story. This is a story from Bottle Rock, actually. Dave Grohl showed up at the culinary stage, which I included a little bit of footage from in last week's episode, including him drumming on Pots and Pan drum set that was on the stage, which when it's there, he's got to do it. I didn't have a great view of Dave behind the pot and pans, but you could see him banging on the drums. Nirvana brought the cult band's song to Jesus. So he played the Foo Fighters played the Vaseline's "Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam" at Bottle Rock, and they kind of followed in Nirvana's footsteps here with this. It was released by the cult Scottish indie band in 1988 on their "Dying for It" EP, and was brought to international attention when covered by Nirvana in their legendary MTV Unplugged in New York live album in 1994 under the tweaked title "Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam." And on Saturday at Bottle Rock, Dave Grohl, who played on the MTV Unplugged version, revisited the song when he led the Foos in a rendition during their set at Bottle Rock. It was the first time they had ever played the song live, and it came in a show that also saw Aurora being dedicated to Taylor Hawkins, as they always do. I recorded that as well. It was a beautiful rendition, a slow version of Big Me dedicated to Grohl's wife, Jordan Bloom, and a bunch more. So really cool performance. Really enjoyed it. All right. That is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Next week on the program, we have another fun episode featuring Augustana, one of my favorite bands from 20 years ago. Dan Leyes, lead singer of Augustana, came back to the Sweetwater in Mill Valley, and I had a great chat with him there at the venue, and it was just one of my best interviews. I'm just going to say it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to bring that to you as well as some songs from the set, of course. All that next week. So stay tuned, subscribe, like the podcast, tell your friends, all of that. Really appreciate it. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.